All right, we are back. I'm Jacob Harris.
Connor Walsh.
This is All or Nothing. Today we're going to be talking about calcium and magnesium and things that they do. And we might talk about a few other things like growth hormone and other things, maybe possibly some illegal peptides that your mate told you are amazing and you can get in the mail and they're 100% pure and definitely have nothing else in them. We are going to start off. I'm less on it with calcium. I'm less aware of it with calcium. I've done less reading into calcium. But is this
honest, I am a little bit too. I definitely think sodium and potassium is the more applicable for most people. It's the area that I'm definitely more read up on. But
well, it's an interesting one, right? Because we're always told drink milk, it's got calcium in it, it's good for your bones. And someone said, that's actually bullshit. Did you know that? And I was like, oh, is it bullshit? But it's because of where they get it from, is that calcium is stored in the bones, right? So that's where they, in their heads, they're like, if you drink calcium, it's in your bones, they get stronger. What do you reckon?
It's part of it, yeah. It's not the only, as we'll kind of touch on, and how your body maintains homeostasis of these things. It's not the only thing that controls where calcium is in your body, the storage, and because obviously you've got to control serum levels. Bones and teeth are where we store about 99% of the body's calcium. Dietary intake is one of the things that controls the feedback loop, but there are other hormones such as calcitonin and parathyroid hormone that control the reabsorption and breakdown of things like existing bone to bring up calcium levels, and then the storage of calcium to strengthen bones and bring down serum calcium levels. So magnesium intake, as we'll touch on again, also has quite a big impact on the way calcium works. So yes, drinking and having a calcium-rich diet is one very important part of having strong bones, but there are other impacts, that have a big impact as well.
Yes, well, it's not. I mean, we'll go into how they work together and the other things going on. Because if you haven't, just go back 2 podcasts ago. We did a big thing on magnesium. We talked all about that. So we're not going to rehash too much about that because we talked about what it does and different forms of it. So listen to that if you haven't already, and then we can move into this, because everything I'm seeing is similar stuff, right? It says we've got nerve signaling, muscle contraction, so similar stuff to kind of what we're seeing with things like potassium and that. Anyway, obviously, it's just different because it sounds like that's not as much of what calcium does. It's like just a part of it.
Yeah. So obviously, calcium has structural roles, bones and teeth, controls nerve conductions, excitability and relaxability of muscles in conjunction with magnesium. Also has to do with contractions in cardiac tissue. So like, for example, you've got calcium channel blockers and stuff of that nature, which act on how calcium that effectively impacts the receptors in the hearts and the way the heart contracts, and blood vessel dilation and vasoconstriction, stuff like that.
I've got a few points. There's 3 main points here in the summary we've got. Parathyroid hormone, vitamin D, and then calcitonin.
Yep. So parathyroid hormone is the hormone that you've got your thyroid gland, and then the parathyroid, which sits just behind it on your throat. Parathyroid produces predominantly a hormone called parathyroid hormone, which is going to be released in the response to low blood calcium. Parathyroid hormone will bring up, yes, correct. Parathyroid hormone will cause the releasing of calcium from storage, things like your bones and your teeth. It will also have impacts on stuff like intestinal absorption of calcium, so it'll increase the amount of calcium that your body is taking from digestion into serum. And that is in adults, the primary controlling factor of how you regulate blood calcium levels. Calcitonin is effectively the opposite of parathyroid hormone. That controls more of the storage of calcium from serum. So if you've got high serum calcium, it's going to increase the amount of calcium that's been stored in stuff like bones and teeth, as well as increase the amount that's excreted through kidney filtration. However, calcitonin has only quite a minor impact on adults. That's something that is more impactful in calcium regulation when we're developing and storing and creating more new bone tissue. When we're fully developed as adults, it's something that has a much lower impact. Vitamin D3 is an indirect factor within calcium, levels. So we get vitamin D1 and vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. This is a name for those. Can't remember them. Through either skin absorption or diet. The liver then converts those into 25 hydroxy vitamin D. So that's what typically you would be testing in a blood panel for. The kidney then takes that 25 hydroxy vitamin D and converts it into 125 hydroxy or calcitriol. That is the active form of vitamin D that your body uses. There is an enzyme that this triggers during the reaction, which predominantly acts as an increased intestinal or increases the intestinal absorption of calcium to increase levels that way. I think it has some minor impacts through some of the other calcium metabolism factors, but the primary factor that it has is just through the intestinal absorption of calcium.
Yes, that's one of the main things that was coming up for me. It was like, we know this with how a lot of things work, right? So it's like, for an example, to make it in another one, it was like, is it like too much zinc inhibits absorption of something like copper? And then sometimes they'll recommend, especially people with low iron, that if you're going to supplement with iron or you're focusing on getting more iron in food, sometimes it can be helpful to increase your vitamin C intake, because that will help absorb iron. So this is another one of those situations, right, where it's like it's not that picture. Again, someone might be like, I need more calcium, but vitamin D is part of the equation as well, because it's going to help that absorption in a certain area, but it's part of it.
Without magnesium, there is almost no calcium that's going to be absorbed either, as well as potassium as well. Magnesium has a big role in both allowing calcium and potassium to be absorbed. So low magnesium is going to throw off all electrolytes. Typically, the most common, deleterious impact of severely low magnesium is going to be hyperkalemia or low potassium, which then has some pretty significant impacts on like heartbeats and heart rate stability.
Pretty important to focus on having some well-rounded numbers there overall. Also depends on what you're doing. Probably less of a concern for your average person, right?
I agree.
It's more important for people who are sweating their asses off. Which is funny, because when I worked down south on blast crew, it was like they would give you these icy poles, and it would be like 20 milligrams of sodium, 80 milligrams of potassium or something. Like they would be like the shittest ratios in these little icy poles. Weirdly, you felt good afterwards. Like you felt it was like a placebo thing. You were like, oh my God, I fucking want one of those icy poles. And then you'd have one and be like, oh, I feel so much better. But really, I was pissing brown all day. It was definitely I was not replenishing myself with that shitty icy pole. But if anyone's had one, they know they're good. So you wanted to move on. You want to continue or elaborate on the homeostasis stuff, Connor?
Pretty much went over the majority or the main things that you need to know before when we kind of touched on parathyroid hormone and calcitonin and vitamin D. They're kind of really the three main impacts. Probably the only one main thing to note with magnesium. We're still on calcium. We skipped over magnesium, but we haven't because we're not really touching on magnesium. I'll go over it now. I just lost my train of thought. It was something I had to say about magnesium absorption that was important, and I've completely forgotten while my dogs were barking.
All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll continue on because with some of the other questions I was going to put out there. And relate it to what we're saying, and then when it comes back to you, let me know. So this is like sort of, it's to do with it, but it's more of an example based on the ideology of what we're referring to.
I might just have to quickly go shut my dogs up in 2 seconds.
All right.
Hey, come on.
I've decided that I'm not really going to edit these because it takes a lot longer than it needs to. So I'm just going to leave this in there.
You start. Off you go.
I'm just going to leave this in there of Connor just yelling at his dogs. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it properly, but I'm going to leave it in there. Also, follow Ped Test Australia on Instagram or go to their website. So I had someone say to me the other day, man, I don't feel the greatest and I'm already on 11 different peptides. I'm thinking about putting B12 in as well. I'm going to inject some B12 because apparently you feel hell good afterwards, which was probably his exact words, which is pretty comical anyway.
See, clinically, while we're on it, we're talking about magnesium. I would have to double check on this, but I'm pretty sure the main clinical concern with consuming B12 injections is actually it can cause hypomagnesemia, which then has a kind of a few onset things that it can cause, as we talked about before, hyperkalemia, low potassium, and issues with the heart. So I need to double check on that. B12 injections isn't something I typically recommend very often. The only time I would ever suggest it is if blood work suggested you needed it. But yeah, just taking B12 if you're not actually deficient in it. Again, fact checking on this, but 99% sure that would be one of the main risk factors. There would actually be hypomagnesemia.
Right. It's you've never done it though?
Not B12 in itself. When I was younger, I have done an injectable B complex. Again, no real reason. I wouldn't do it again now that I have some form of actual education by myself. I just did it being young, thinking it was, another injectable vitamin probably is better than oral. And if you have a deficiency, it probably is. But there's nothing to be gained if there's not a deficiency already there.
Yeah, it seems like overkill. I mean, surely you're just getting enough in your diet. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're not, but you would think that you were. I don't know.
Look, there may be cases, say people with homocysteine elevations or just issues with B vitamin. Maybe they're vegan, for example, even. That's one good reason where B12 injections would be quite warranted.
This guy was not vegan, just so we're putting that out there for sure. Because I agree, but I think we both know the parameters of this person. Look, look, even just the way that someone said, I heard you feel hell good afterwards.
No.
Like, I don't know, bro. Like, we both know that, like, micronutrients aren't typically things that we feel a lot. You know what I mean? Look, with the exception of electrolytes, but I don't eat twice the amount of vitamin D that I had yesterday and go, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like, it's not how it works. You might feel a little bit better, but there could be 1,000 reasons why. Maybe you slept better. Maybe you didn't look at a screen for as long. Maybe you're less stressed. Like, it's probably not an injectable fucking thing. If I take a vitamin D supplement, I'm not like within 10 minutes, I feel so much better. We know that that's not how it works. No. So I just find it to be an interesting one in the regards of what we're talking about, because we're talking about how they interfere with other things. And that sounds like a genuine consideration if it could possibly affect, but like, you said magnesium levels or potassium?
I'm pretty sure it is magnesium. As I said, it's not like an area I'm like super. This is in clinical, like generally if they're administering it like intravenous, I believe it is magnesium is the main clinical consideration. I could be talking out of my ass, but in the many papers I've read, I do believe I remember reading that. But someone in the comments, fact check us. Tell me if I'm wrong, please.
Yeah. Interesting, hey? Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's another one. It's just a trendy thing. I feel like another one that's trendy as well, which we talked a little bit about recently. Did you want to touch on this other strange thing that you mentioned to me this morning?
Yeah, look, I'll just quickly add one more thing about the B12. If you are deficient in B12, it is something that will make a pretty significant change in energy levels, primarily because of its impact on blood cell production. Often people only look at iron as a cause of dysfunctional blood cell production, but other micronutrients, particularly like B12, zinc, and folates, also have very key roles in the production of red blood cells. Typically, you'll see a reduction in red cell distribution width and maybe some skewing of your subcounts within the red cell, like mean corpuscular hemoglobin. That's typically when those areas start to skew. Often you may be looking at something like a B12 deficiency as well.
But go to a fucking doctor and get your bloods done to see if you even need any B12, bro. All right?
Yeah.
Because...
But to be fair, a doctor will only order you most likely a serum B12 test, which is a pretty poor indicator actually of your B12 status.
Connor, you're killing me. All right, go to Eat Bloody Good.
Look, go to your GP and get someone who knows what they're doing to read the blood work for you, because there's things that you can see that have absolutely nothing to do with B12 status that'll give you a pretty good indication of your B12 status that's going to be more accurate than actually testing B12 itself.
Alternatively, get the test done through Bloody Good, iScreen, iMedical. Get the test done yourself and then find someone who can read bloods like Connor here, right?
Yeah.
So, because typically the people that are probably considering this and talking about this are also the kind of guys that go, doctors don't do shit, man. They're all out to get you. Big pharma, they're useless. Which is, look,
doctors are lifesavers. They're not all great, but if you don't respect doctors and the people that are there to save your life, then I don't know what kind of person you are, to be completely honest. Not everyone's great. There's good people and bad people in every profession. At the end of the day, they chose the profession to try and help you out. So I personally don't have a lot of time for people that want to just completely badmouth doctors.
I agree. I think the same thing about all professions, police, everything. Look, there's obviously some dickhead police, but there's some that are totally fine as well. You can't loop everyone in the same thing. Otherwise, me and Connor would be in the same category as old mate Matt with curly hair that's 19 who sits on his phone while his client does a set of 10, who, knows nothing about anything and does horrible coaching and charges people tons. And I'm not that guy. Neither's Connor, right? I had another thing in my head. Don't know where it went. Let's talk about this because people are going to be interested in this. Do you know what the name of this is? This new drug, miracle drug?
I don't. Give me 2 seconds. This was one of my clients that actually made me aware of this, so we can thank, I won't name said client, but he'll know who he is if he watches it.
More different stuff to find out. More stuff. Just look like a dude from Resident Evil will just be burning fat 24/7. Just, my metabolism's so fast.
So
I'm not editing this, by the way, and I was talking about it before, so they're going to hear the 15-second interval of you like telling your dogs to shut up. I thought that was like a nice little touch.
Usually it's the postie. The postie has a knack of coming during our podcast. It came right before we started this one.
PedTest Australia is a WA-based company providing at-home testing kits for a range of black market substances, underground or counterfeit drugs that can often contain a different substance than what they claim, or nothing at all. In 2024, 5% of oil-based steroids contained no active ingredient. Oral steroids were even worse, 12% contained no active ingredient. PedTest Australia kits provide a quick and cost-effective method of screening products before they are used. Kit results help users make informed decisions about substances they choose to take and therefore reduce the risks they are exposed to. Don't take chances with your health and gains. Test it before you take it. Go to pedtestaustralia.com to order your test kits. Bulk Gym Chalk Australia are your go-to suppliers for gym chalk. Whether you are doing powerlifting, weightlifting, strongman, gymnastics, or running a competition event and need bulk supplies and prizes, they've got you covered. Options include block chalk, bowl chalk, liquid chalk, or invisible liquid chalk for those gyms where you aren't allowed other options. They even have a range of athlete recovery bath salts to soak those training aches away. Check out the range at www.bulkgymchalk.com.au. He knows it's happening. He wants to hear it, bro. He wants to hear the information. He knows it's going down.
Fucking nice.
Why wouldn't you want to learn? So this is a drug that Connor had mentioned this morning. Oh, you got it?
CBL514. So
of course.
Forgive me for not remembering the name.
Sounds like a fucking robot fart. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Do you know much about it?
I know pretty well, absolutely fuck all about it. Client brought it up to me, asked me a question about it. I had to Google, did a quick Cliff Notes research on it.
What's the name again?
CBL514.
514.
My brief understanding from what I read is that it causes apoptosis of fat cells, which effectively is killing off the fat cells where the drug has been injected. So you're literally killing the fat. This sounds pretty crazy. It's not the drug, not the first drug of its kind that's done this. There is another peptide called adipeptide that works by causing cell apoptosis of fat cells. It's not a peptide I've ever recommended. A few other well-known influencers, such as Vigorous Steve, have also expressed concerns about it. Apoptosis is the killing of cells, all well and good if that is limited to just the fat cells. The risk being if it goes systemic and you start having cell death of cells that you're not wanting to kill. Kidney cells, for example, would probably be the most likely because that's filtering the blood that it's entering the system in. That is one concern. If you remember the days of Boston Lloyd, rest in peace, he thinks his kidney failure was due to the adipotide. Realistically, I don't think that was the case with the amount of drug abuse that was going on. But that was the conclusion he had come to. This drug has this newer version of the drug, the CBL, whatever, has made it through to, I believe, phase 2 clinical trials. So there is at least some degree of safety for it to have gotten that far. It is something that I would be interested to see how it progresses. It's not a drug that I would be rushing to go and use ahead of clinical approach. Something like retatrutide, for example, I have no problems using ahead of full clinical trials, just because of some of the issues with something like adipotide, for example. This type of drug is one that I would definitely be more inclined to wait for clinical trials to conclude and see what the outcomes are.
What if for $60 my mate can get me a vial that has a $50 label printer from Officeworks label on the side of it that sort of looks half legit and there's only a little bit peeling off?
Look, if that's the case, then what I'll just have to do is I'll do a deep dive for you. I'll get a week's worth of research in and I'll let you make your life decision based on that 1 week's worth of research.
That sounds like a good idea. In case you are a full-blown melon, me and Connor are fucking with you because you definitely shouldn't be doing that.
I am a full-blown melon. I am a guinea pig. I'm a fucking lab rat. I'll do whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I've taken the DNP. If you don't know what DNP is, Google it. I'm not going to talk about it. I started shit when I was young. This is not something that I'm prepared to get ahead on, so that might say something for the concern that should be involved potentially around the drug. Could be fantastic though.
Connor won't do it. There you go. And Connor's, like you said, he's the Resident Evil guy.
It's me, mate.
Right. And I can tell you right now, I've been around Connor's house when we filmed A Full Day of Eating and seen what the pre-workout looks like. So, but look, it's the magic pill, right? Current research has focused on abdomen, love handles, thighs, other localized fat deposits. Like it's the magic pill, right? Like, oh my God, can you get rid of these areas? Which is, as you said, it's to me, I can't stop picturing it like a fucking flesh-eating disease. Like you inject it and then it just goes and eats all around it.
Well, look, cell death. That's what apoptosis is. To some degree, it is kind of cutaneous or subcutaneous fat-eating disease injection.
Doesn't sound great. But look, let's stand by, right? Let's see what happens. Hopefully in some time has passed and some dude's eaten his whole leg away by injecting it in and we can have another conversation about it. That's pretty wild. I hadn't heard of this one. But as you said, this isn't the first of its kind anyway, right?
Look, I haven't done research into it. It may be a completely different mechanism of action as to how it creates the apoptosis. But the end thing that's occurring that's causing the fat cells to fuck off is the same. This is a drug that is definitely going to garner a lot of attention. I'm sure I'm going to have clients asking about it as the months go on. So it is something that I will do some research in, and we probably can do a segment on it by itself. Even given that I have, said the, cautions that I have around the drug initially, I know I'm going to get questions about it. So, I think it's worth doing a little bit of further research in, and, we'll see what we find.
What about this oral? Have you heard this oral UK? Apparently there's like an oral in the UK that's getting quite popular. GLP-1 tablet. You heard about
Possibly. That? You can get semaglutide, I believe, in an oral.
The Wegovy pill. So it says...
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the fucking trade name for these are. It's semaglutide and tirzepatide are the drug names. It's what people really need to start calling them.
Semaglutide is what is Wegovy. It says that in brackets.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah. So yeah, there is. That's been around since the start of it. It's just less popular.
Less effective, I'm assuming, right? Anything oral.
Less effective, probably more expensive, yeah.
Yeah. Don't be I'm trying to think of a good slogan. Don't just pin, bro. Basically,
Generally speaking, yeah.
just pin. There's not really too many other reasons to not pin. So, yeah, it's an interesting one that because pills is more marketable, right? Because that's like scares people less. I can take one pill a week and it does it, and maybe it'll do something, right?
Yeah, look, the other thing you also kind of have to remember is there is application within diabetics here. If you're a type 1 diabetic who's already maybe injecting yourself, maybe 10 times a day, bloody dogs. There you go. Yeah, if you're a type 1 diabetic and you're already, you're wearing a CGM, an insulin pump, whatever, you're doing blood pricks for your fingers, it's a lifelong thing, maybe cutting down your one injection and having a slightly higher dose of an oral is an option. I don't think there's any hepatotoxicity or anything around the oral. I believe it's just a lower bioavailability, as is the case with pretty much any oral peptide that you consume, mainly because you have to remember that they are amino acid chains. Your digestive system is generally going to break down their bonds between the amino acid chains, split them into individual amino acids, and then digest them the same way it would with food, breaking down protein.
It is an interesting one, isn't it? How it all works, and how there's so many different versions now. They're really trying to sell the shit out of these things. Are you concerned by like where things are at in terms of quality?
Yeah, I am. There's definitely risk around things not being what you say, incorrect doses. Look, I'll be completely honest, I have never seen a single peptide-related issue in anyone that I've ever used them with. I know for a fact people have had misdosed peptides, most likely the wrong peptides at times that they haven't known about. But I'm not seeing issues.
Can you see there possibly being a potential for issues in the future when it comes to, say, like stronger peptides, right? The more that we lean into them?
I do believe the stronger and the more physiologically changing, or the capability of changing physiology the peptide has, the more risk for something going wrong. Peptides typically augment something that already occurs. So within that, they are fairly safe, and that your body has some form of self regulation through a feedback loop or some way that it can kind of limit things. But yeah, I think as things get stronger, the potential for danger may become worse. And as they just get more mainstream, unfortunately, some people are just idiots. And if you, I don't know, the amount of people who I've had who have taken a peptide, just put a random amount of water in the vial, and come to me and be like, how much do I take? Like, if that's you, then yeah, you could have issues with peptides, and that's not the peptide problem. That's your problem. It's your fault. Can't help dumb.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, look, I might use some ChatGPT stuff for summarizing stuff to give us some talking points and things like that. I'm not going to pretend that we're not doing that, but you shouldn't be using it for that sort of thing.
No.
I think you should be consulting with a human being personally, but at the very least, go and read some actual information from some reputable sources as opposed to just my mate said do this, because that's the big problem right now. People get a hold of something and then they talk about it like that's the other thing. The God talk about it. Oh man, I'm on Clo and like I've never felt better. I'm like, the problem with it is human nature, right? You get itchy. You're like, oh really?
Yeah, and
that sounds
amount of placebo effect I see around it is fucking phenomenal too. You'll have people who have no idea what they're taking, they don't know how to take it, they don't know what dose to take, but they're taking it. They're taking like a totally insufficient dose, something that's not fucking doing anything. But oh my God, bro, I'm on the BPC, I've never felt better, my joints feel better, I'm recovering better, I'm sleeping better. How much you on? Oh, insert dose, fucking doing nothing, mate.
Yeah.
All up here.
What do you think about the separation of them? I had someone say that to me the other day. They're like, oh, I've ordered them all separately now because they've all got different half-lives and they should be mixed together.
No, it depends on what you're using.
Clo, for example, because that's what BPC,
TB500, KPV, and GHKCU. If you're going to take them all, I would get the blends. It's way, way more economical. Generally speaking, they should be made in a way that is safe for them to be reconstituted. Maybe one's not got too high of a pH with whatever filler or whatever's added. It should be made in a way that's safe to do so. If you're it's going to be more dangerous to combine them in the same syringe after the fact. For example, if you buy each individual vial separately, I don't particularly suggest combining them in the syringe after the fact. I would then suggest doing them all in separate injections. Look, arguably speaking, it might be marginally better, but it's not something that I think really has that big of a difference. And you're looking at like, you're going to pay 3 times the price to get 4 of the peptides individually.
Oh, no, not my mate, bro. He's got like the direct Hong Kong source. Like the guy that makes it scoops it into a bottle and then sends it directly to his house.
Yeah, everyone does.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. They all do. They've all got better hookups than you and me, Connor. You know what I mean? That's just how it is, bro.
I'm terrible with it these days.
What do you say?
I got no hookups, mate.
Yeah, hookups for what? What are we talking about?
Yeah, no bitches, no hookups.
No bitches, no hookups. Yeah. Did you remember your magnesium rant or no?
No, I completely forgot. It was something pretty important. I might remember it after the fact, but I have no idea what it was.
It'll come to you at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're laying in bed.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, it's been a solid half an hour. We actually covered a lot there. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the calcium stuff, and you went a little bit more into it. But a couple of those other little questions are all good. I really struggle because I wish I could just put them all in the title. It's annoying that I can't just put them all in the title so that people know what we're talking about. Yeah. I don't really know how to avoid that. I'll just try to use buzzwords. But yeah, this has been another pretty solid episode. Next week, we'll look at some other stuff. We'll keep on trying to touch on what's relevant and talk about certain specific things, and we'll keep these nice and clean and short. And that's pretty much it. Did you have anything else?
Not really to add on that. Or we're going to touch on the GH peptide apocalypse, or maybe we can leave that as a teaser for next week or next episode.
Let's leave it as a teaser only because I feel like that won't be something we'll get done in 5 minutes. We'll probably want to go over that a little bit, and I'm sure it'll still be a problem next week.
Yes.
So let's leave that for next week, and we'll go from there. So far, this has been All or Nothing. I'm Jacob Harris.
I'm Connor Walsh.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next one.